Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for July 22nd, 2024. First off, urgent help needed to volunteer for Pittsburgh Temple Open House. Dear brothers and sisters, we've been advised by our stake presidency that volunteers for the Pittsburgh Temple Open House are only at 40% of what is requested. Volunteers can also be non-members and friends of the church. Please double check your schedules and sign up to volunteer, if at all possible. Just some anecdotal evidence that the church, although it wants to appear as if it's growing in leaps and bounds, is struggling to get members to show up. And now from Axios.com, 50 years ago this week, the NAACP sued the Boy Scouts of America over a Mormon ban on Black Scouts in troop leadership. Until 1978, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints banned Black members from entering the faith's temples or holding the priesthood, a status available to most other male members starting at age 11. That affected who could serve as senior patrol leaders in church-affiliated Boy Scout troops, which automatically gave the normally elected position to the sponsoring congregation's Deacons Quorum president. That's a role that requires the priesthood. The policy barred two 12-year-old Black Scouts from becoming leaders in church troops in 1974, prompting the NAACP to join them in a racial discrimination lawsuit on July 23rd. The local United Way chapter threatened to withdraw funding to the Boy Scouts of America's Great Salt Lake Council if it didn't institute a non-discrimination policy. The church then changed its policy to stop conflating priesthood roles with scouting roles, but still required a Black child to be better qualified than a white priesthood-holding boy to become a senior patrol leader. The BSA settled the case with the NAACP months later, after then-church president Spencer W. Kimball was subpoenaed. Latter-day Saint troops accounted for 16% of all Boy Scouts at the time. The church was the BSA's largest single sponsor for decades, automatically enrolling boys as scouts when they turned 8, until the church withdrew from scouting in 2019 to start its youth program. While we very reluctantly acknowledge the LDS Church's legal right to maintain its doctrine excluding Black people from the priesthood, we are outraged when that doctrine finds expression in the church's secular activities, the NAACP wrote in a news statement quoted in the Logan Herald Journal. The church has not apologized for the priesthood ban, instead claiming its removal was contemporaneous with the revelation from God to then leaders of the faith. That has left church members to proffer possible doctrinal justifications for it, some at odds with the church's present position. A prominent religion professor at BYU told the Washington Post in 2012 that the ban was equivalent to a parent refusing to give a young child the keys to the family car, implying that Black members weren't yet ready for the priesthood. Other members have argued the ban was divinely inspired because it allowed the church to recruit white members who wouldn't have embraced racial equality at the time. Explanations claiming that Black members were, in fact, spiritually inferior until 1978, or that white members were rightly God's priority, are still definitively racist. The priesthood ban's extension to secular endeavors like scouting weighs against claims that the motive was purely religious. Next, did you know that Mormon men claim to be able to trace their priesthood authority back to Jesus himself? This is what that looks like. Here is a paper that someone put down of their line of authority. The document has been redacted, so there will be general terms used. It says, new elder was ordained an elder on 1 December 2002 by their male parent. Their male parent was ordained a high priest on 18 January 1987 by the stake president. The stake president was ordained a high priest on 23 October 1969 by White Man A. White Man A was ordained a high priest on 15 February 1959 by White Man B. White Man B was ordained a high priest on 2 October 1927 by Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. was ordained an apostle on 7 April 1910 by Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. was ordained an apostle on 1 July 1866 and set apart as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles on 8 October 1867 by Brigham Young. Brigham Young was ordained an apostle on 14 February 1835 under the hands of the three witnesses, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Martin Harris. Paris. The 3 witnesses were called by revelation to choose the 12 apostles, and on 14 February 1835 were blessed by the laying on of hands by the presidency, Joseph Smith Jr., Sidney Rigdon, and Frederick G. Williams, to choose the 12 apostles. History of the Church, Volume 2, pages 187 to 188. Joseph Smith Jr. and Oliver Cowdery received the Melchizedek priesthood in 1829 under the hands of Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John were ordained apostles by the Lord Jesus Christ. John 15:16. And last up to date, a few excerpts from an article from the Salt Lake Tribune entitled, "Opinion: My LDS family adopted an American Indian child in the 1970s. It was wrong, and the church should apologize." My foster brother, Leander, came to live with my family in Utah as part of the Indian Student Placement Program, also called the Lamanite Education Program, sponsored by the LDS Church. 6th grade was a unique year because he and I were in the same class and therefore the same class picture. Among a small sea of 27 children and 1 teacher, there were 26 white, typically middle-class children, including me, and 1 Native American boy on the first row, my brother. In the late summer of 1971, my family and I met Leander after he had taken the long bus ride from a reservation in Arizona to my nearly all-white community in Utah. He stayed through his 4th grade year and he returned home for the summer. At the beginning of 5th grade, he said he did not want to come back. My family and I, at the behest of a church caseworker, set out in our car to retrieve him, to take him from his home, his family, his culture, and especially his beloved younger brother. I do not know if we broke any laws, but we did coerce him to go against his wishes. Leander did not return to our family for 10th and 11th grades, but he did return in the fall of 1979 to live with us for 12th grade. However, by the end of the semester, my foster brother was a truly angry person. By Christmas, my family and I went to the station to put him on a bus back to the reservation. We gave up on him. That was the last time I ever saw or spoke with him. In September 1995, Leander died at age 33. In ripping children from home, culture, and family in service of the church, no matter how much better we feel their lives might be, we do irreparable damage. I hope that much of Leander's time with us was worthwhile, and a few surviving artifacts suggest it was. At the same time, his despair and anger at being torn from home and family were evident that day at the bus depot. The Indian Placement Program was wrong when I was a boy, and it is wrong now for the church to refuse to apologize for its program of forced assimilation and cultural destruction. The self-serving act of exclusionary othering, stigmatizing persons based on prejudice or preconceived ideas, encourages abusers, promotes unjust punishment, and feeds the egos of the privileged. The church othered Native Americans and promoted the notion that they were cursed but could be redeemed and have their skin made white and delightsome. The church has since claimed this was a printer's error rather than apologizing for its racist past. Recently, it settled allegations of abuse among placement program participants as well. It is past time for the church to acknowledge its historical wrongs, offer sincere apologies, and commit to preventing such atrocities in the future. Only then can we begin to heal the deep wounds inflicted upon Indigenous communities. And that is my update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.